The roots of wrestling date back to the sideshows of the 19th century, where regular folks would attempt to outmaneuver skilled grapplers in hopes of winning cash and adoration. Over time, the business evolved into a global spectacle, emphasizing theatrical elements while downplaying the legitimate sporting aspect to keep the audiences engaged. To heighten the stakes, feuds were established, and gradually, gimmick matches were introduced, from the classic steel cage and Texas deathmatch to modern gimmicks like Hell in a Cell and TLC. When a promoter struck gold with a particular match type, it often guaranteed extra box office success and became a significant part of a promotion's legacy. However, not every experiment proved successful. For every Money in the Bank, there was a Judy Bagwell on a forklift match, and alongside Hell in a Cell, there was a Punjabi prison. Whether due to a lack of foresight, bad timing, or uncontrollable circumstances, some match types surfaced once and then disappeared without a trace, never to be attempted again. Without further ado, here are 10 wrestling match types that were used only once. Number 10. The Asylum. Remember Dean Ambrose? With his distinctive fringe and sweaty vest, he portrayed quite the wacky character, a far cry from the brooding and violent persona of Jon Moxley. Ambrose's transformation into a quirky yet edgy guy took place during his feud with Chris Jericho in 2016. One of the highlights of this feud was Ambrose's peculiar friendship with a potted plant named Mitch. Unfortunately, when Jericho destroyed Mitch, their rivalry reached new levels of intensity, leading to the creation of a brand new match, the Asylum. In concept, the Asylum wasn't a bad idea. It was essentially a cage match with an assortment of weapons attached to the top and sides, where escaping wouldn't end the bout. The objective was simple: participants were meant to pummel each other until someone secured a pinfall or submission. However, the match itself felt a bit cluttered and reminiscent of something you'd expect from Russo. The combination of a hardcore match and a cage match seemed unnecessary. It would have been better to stick to one or the other. Despite its potential, the Asylum match failed to fully captivate the crowd, largely due to overshadowing from the potted plant drama, almost resembling a questionable sequel to Little Shop of Horrors. In the end, while not terrible, the match left something to be desired in terms of excitement and engagement. Number 9. Armageddon Hell in a Cell. What could be more thrilling than a Hell in a Cell match? Well, a 6-man Hell in a Cell match. Despite being a popular feature in WWE video games over the years, the 6-man cell match took place only once, and it was a spectacle to remember at Armageddon 2000. The mastermind behind this chaos was none other than Mick Foley, the hardcore icon serving as the commissioner at the time. Foley was fed up with WWE champion Kurt Angle's crafty tactics to sneak past opponents like The Undertaker, Triple H, Steve Austin, The Rock, and Rikishi. So, he decided to gather all 6 of them under one massive roof and let the carnage unfold. Not everyone was on board with Foley's ambitious plan. Mr. McMahon detested the idea and tried to persuade all 6 competitors to back out, but to no avail. Instead, a caveat was inserted: if any of them got injured, Foley would be fired. Despite the risks, the Armageddon Hell in a Cell match delivered a prime Attitude Era showdown. The intensity was off the charts, and the arena was soaked in blood as superstars brawled relentlessly. Finishes were unleashed, adding to the thrill of the encounter. To top it all off, Vince McMahon himself showed up with a hay-filled wagon, attempting to tear down the cell and intervene in the mayhem. As thrilling as it was, there was one minor issue. The action was so intense and spread out that it became challenging to keep track of everything. For instance, Rikishi and The Undertaker found themselves brawling on top of the cell, providing a nerve-wracking sight, before Rikishi dramatically plummeted into a truck below. It was a memorable moment, but it felt a tad overwhelming, as the match had almost too much going on at once. In the end, despite its epic nature, it became evident that a one-on-one Hell in a Cell match usually offers a more focused and satisfying experience for the fans. Number 8. Sumo Monster Truck Match. Throughout wrestling history, we've witnessed numerous iconic gimmick matches, such as Ric Flair vs. Kerry Von Erich inside a cage and Shawn Michaels vs. The Undertaker in Hell in a Cell. However, one match stands out as the epitome of 90s wrestling extravagance: Hulk Hogan vs. the Giant in a monster truck match. It was a contest that reeked of the over-the-top spirit of that era. The spectacle was born when a rampaging rookie from the Dungeon of Doom ran over Hogan's motorbike with a truck, laughingly resembling a horse as he sped away. This audacious act led to the two wrestling legends agreeing to a monster truck battle, which essentially turned out to be a lackluster sumo wrestling match with ridiculously giant cars. Hogan's vehicle had arms. Yes, you heard that right. While the giant looked like a spooky skeleton on wheels. Eric Bischoff, perhaps fueled by the 90s excess, splurged an exorbitant amount of money on the whole production. As for the match itself, if it can even be called that, it was a mere 5 minutes of trucks moving forward and backward, devoid of any substantial action or excitement. The climax was an unfortunate accident where Hogan unintentionally sent the giant plunging off the top of Cobo Hall, resulting in murder by push. How this match ever got the green light is genuinely beyond comprehension. Well, actually, it's not. It was 1995 WCW, where creative ideas often seem to have little restraint, and they hoped that some of the madness they threw at the wall would stick. In this case, the mess certainly didn't leave a positive mark on wrestling history. Number 7. Firefly Funhouse Match. The Firefly Funhouse match was a unique and surreal creation that took the WWE Universe by surprise at WrestleMania 36. This one-of-a-kind match type featured John Cena taking on the Fiend Bray Wyatt in a bizarre cinematic encounter that blurred the lines between reality and fiction. The setting was no ordinary wrestling ring but rather an eerie and whimsical funhouse, reminiscent of Bray Wyatt's twisted alter ego, the Fiend. With the match unfolding in a cinematic format, it allowed for a narrative-driven experience that brought Cena and Wyatt's long-standing feud to an entirely different level. Throughout the match, the viewers were taken on a mind-bending journey that transcended time and space, showcasing various aspects of John Cena's career and persona. The Firefly Funhouse match playfully toyed with Cena's past characters and storylines, bending reality to create a unique psychological showdown. In this unorthodox encounter, the focus shifted from traditional wrestling moves to psychological mind games, as Cena confronted his inner demons and faced the consequences of past decisions. The match brilliantly blended elements of horror, comedy, and drama, creating an unforgettable spectacle that left fans in awe and bewilderment. While the Firefly Funhouse match might not have been a traditional wrestling contest, it undeniably showcased the creative prowess of Bray Wyatt and the WWE's willingness to experiment with innovative storytelling. It was an artful and experimental masterpiece, illustrating that wrestling can transcend its typical boundaries to provide entertainment in wholly unexpected ways. Despite its acclaim, the Firefly Funhouse match remains a one-time occurrence, cementing its place in WWE history as an enigmatic and unforgettable chapter that captured the imagination of wrestling fans worldwide. Number 6. The Doomsday Cage Match. The mid-90s era of WCW, before the NWO took over, was an odd and often disappointing time. The promotion seemed more cartoonish than a Flintstones marathon, and it became a common theme for every heel to want nothing more than to end the reign of Hulk Hogan. Thus, in 1996, the Alliance to End Hulkamania was formed, consisting of Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Meng, the Barbarian, Lex Luger, the Taskmaster, Zed Gangster, and a massive individual named the Ultimate Solution. The grand plan to destroy Hogan involved challenging him and his loyal friend Randy Savage in the bizarre and bewildering Doomsday Cage Match. The Doomsday Cage Match was an outlandish spectacle featuring 3 cages stacked on top of each other. The objective was to fight from the top to the bottom, where the match could be decided by pinfall. However, even with 3 cages and 8 against 2 odds, the match played out just as predictably as you might expect. It was a mess. The structure was situated near the entrance and surrounded by peculiar lighting, rendering it nearly impossible for the audience in the arena to see what was happening inside. As a result, the fans were left bewildered and disconnected from the action. Furthermore, the storyline behind the match was woefully illogical, contributing to the overall disappointment. Despite the odds stacked against them, Hogan and Savage emerged victorious, thanks in part to booty man Ed Leslie, who provided frying pans as makeshift weapons. It was like something straight out of a wacky cartoon, mirroring the Flintstones comparison earlier. The triple cage used in the Doomsday Cage Match did appear in various designs and settings throughout WCW's run, but it never felt more woefully executed than in this particular instance. In the end, it was just one more example of WCW's over-the-top and often head-scratching attempts at creating captivating wrestling content during that era. Number 5. The Crybaby Match. In the world of wrestling, building up stars and making them look great, win or lose, is a crucial aspect of storytelling. A well-executed defeat against a formidable opponent can turn an average Joe into a formidable force, showcasing the beauty of a victory in defeat. One prime example is when the rookie underdog, the 1, 2, 3 Kid, triumphed over Razor Ramon on Raw in 1993. It was a monumental victory that propelled the Kid into the spotlight, transforming him into a player within the wrestling scene. However, as with many things in wrestling, the roles can quickly reverse, and in this case, the Kid was eventually turned heel, sparking a renewed feud with Razor Ramon. The history between the two demanded a unique stipulation, and that's when the Crybaby Match was introduced. Yes, you heard that right. The Crybaby Match, a regular bout where the loser ended up with their bottom covered up with a giant diaper. Nothing quite says tough wrestler like being made to look like an incontinent child. The concept was somewhat reminiscent of the weasel suit matches made famous by Bobby Heenan, but there's a significant difference. Heenan was a cowardly heel manager, whereas the Kid was a promising young wrestler with the potential to be groomed into a main event star if presented and pushed differently. Unfortunately, the Crybaby Match was a weird and immature stipulation that seemed to fit perfectly within the new generation era's penchant for oddities. Despite the bizarre stipulation, the Kid managed to come back from this moment and continued to have a notable career in wrestling. It serves as a testament to his talent and resilience, as he overcame the odds of being involved in such a peculiar and, frankly, cringe-worthy match type. The Crybaby Match is a quirky relic of wrestling's past, a reminder of how the industry has evolved, and thankfully, moved away from such peculiar and questionable stipulations. Number 4. The Last Rites Match. No list of one-off match types would be complete without a nod to everyone's favorite train-loving bro, Vince Russo. During one of his many stints in TNA, Russo presided over a completely bonkers feud between Abyss and Sting, centered around the shocking revelation that Abyss had shot his own father. With such high stakes in this immense piece of human drama, what kind of match could possibly bring it all to a conclusion? Enter the Last Rites Match. This match type was as bizarre as it gets, featuring plastic candlesticks adorning the turnbuckles and spooky graveyard props scattered around the ring. The objective was to bring a coffin down from the ceiling, place your opponent inside it, and then raise it back up again. The entire concept felt like absolute bollocks, and the match itself was nothing short of terrible. The chunky coffin in the middle of the small ring severely restricted the wrestlers' movement, making it difficult for them to perform the usual maneuvers with ease. Additionally, the Last Rites Match was traditionally overbooked, with TNA's propensity for throwing in unnecessary shenanigans. The polystyrene tombstones were obliterated, and Sting ended up bleeding profusely from a candelabra shot, taking the absurdity to another level. The fans, understandably, turned on the match, voicing their displeasure with loud and passionate chants of "Fire Russo." The commentary team, consisting of Mike Tenay and Don West, had to practically scream to try and drown out the crowd's disdain. Needless to say, the Last Rites Match was a complete disaster, leaving a lasting mark as one of the worst matches in TNA history, and that's saying something, considering the range of questionable content that TNA has produced over the years. Thankfully, this abysmal match type was never attempted again, and wrestling fans can look back on it as a cautionary tale of the dangers of over-the-top and nonsensical booking. Number 3. The King of the Road Match. In the mid-90s, WCW had somewhat transformed into a kid-friendly, cartoonish wrestling federation, but they still wanted to appease their remaining fans from the NWA days. Hence, they introduced Uncensored, an annual extreme pay-per-view where anything goes, including the infamous King of the Road match. This peculiar match pitted Dustin Rhodes against the Blacktop Bully, better known as Demolition Smash. The two had been embroiled in a feud that culminated in this unique and controversial contest. The King of the Road match took place in the back of the Blacktop Bully's 18-wheeler, situated in an open-air hayfield trailer. The objective was for the competitors to fight their way from the back to the front of the moving truck, where they would then sound an air horn as it drove around public roads. It was a strange concept, to say the least, but surprisingly, the match itself turned out to be a half-decent brawl. However, there was a big problem. The match violated WCW's company policy. Dustin Rhodes, the Blacktop Bully, and road agent Mike Graham were all fired on the spot for disregarding company rules. As a result, the King of the Road match was never used again. Ironically, this unusual match took place at a pay-per-view called Uncensored, making it all the more ironic. In hindsight, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, as this infamous match played a significant role in the wrestling world. The firing of Dustin Rhodes led to his eventual reinvention as Goldust, one of the most iconic and memorable characters in wrestling history. So, while the King of the Road match might have been a strange experiment with a controversial aftermath, it inadvertently paved the way for the birth of Goldust, a character that would leave a lasting mark on the industry. Number 2. The Chamber of Horrors match. The contributions of Dusty Rhodes to professional wrestling are truly immeasurable. His reign as NWA champion and his incredible mic work from that era have influenced countless wrestlers. Rhodes' time on the booking committee also gave us gems like War Games and the infamous Dusty Finish. However, not everything Dusty pioneered was a success, especially when it comes to the Chamber of Horrors match at Halloween Havoc 1991. Picture this: the Steiner brothers, Sting, and El Gigante taking on a team consisting of Big Van Vader, Abdullah the Butcher, Cactus Jack, and the Diamond Stud at the spookiest event of the year. On paper, it sounds intriguing, but then comes the stipulation. The 8 men were supposed to battle it out in a big cage, with the objective being to lower an electric chair and essentially kill one of their opponents for the win. Yes, you heard that right. They were going for a completely normal, death-inducing finish. As the match reached its raging climax, the unthinkable happened. Abdullah the Butcher got hold of Rick Steiner and attempted to strap him into the electric chair. Meanwhile, Cactus Jack gleefully cheered on and played the fool with the all-important death switch. However, a twist of fate occurred when Rick switched places with Abdullah, causing Cactus Jack to unknowingly murder his own teammate. The bizarre and chaotic scene played out, with Abdullah twitching, convulsing, and bleeding buckets as light sparks flew around. In a rather surreal moment, Abdullah stayed dead for a couple of minutes before miraculously rising from the dead and proceeding to beat up a bunch of weird ghosts. Believe it or not, this absurdity took place as the opening match of the pay-per-view. The question is, where do you go from there? The Chamber of Horrors match set the tone for an unconventional and, frankly, perplexing event. To top it all off, the main event that followed was the first ever serial killer 8-man tag, which added even more weirdness to the mix. While Dusty Rhodes has had a profound impact on the wrestling world, the Chamber of Horrors match serves as a reminder that not all creative ideas are meant to be taken seriously or, for that matter, even attempted. It remains a bizarre and unforgettable footnote in wrestling history. Number 1. The Kennel from Hell match. One of the infamous rivalries from the Chaotic Attitude Era was the disturbing and over-the-top feud between Big Boss Man and Al Snow in 1999. The storyline took a dark turn, culminating in an event that wasn't exactly a high point for that era, the dreaded Kennel from Hell match. This match was meant to be the ultimate blow-off, combining Hell in a Cell with a traditional blue caged ring and adding savage guard dogs to the mix, patrolling between the cages. The premise seemed promising a violent bloodbath that would mirror the heated feud between the two wrestlers. The objective was simple: be the first to dodge the canine-infested carnage, escape the structure, and emerge victorious. But when the bell rang, the match quickly fell apart, and not in the way anyone anticipated. The vicious guard dogs turned out to be anything but fierce competitors. Instead, they spent the majority of the match doing their business, pooping and peeing everywhere, or chasing each other around for some rather inappropriate doggy-style antics. The absurdity of it all completely undermined the supposed high stakes of the match. By the time Al Snow managed to escape and finally defeat Big Boss Man, nobody cared about the outcome. The audience was too busy laughing at the spectacle of dogs engaging in less than family-friendly activities. While the double cage visual had the potential to be neat, the columns of fresh dog turds that surrounded it only served to ruin the entire match. The Kennel from Hell match stands as a lasting reminder of how even well-intentioned ideas can go awry in professional wrestling. It was a bizarre, unforgettable, and ultimately cringe-worthy moment that has been etched into wrestling history. Needless to say, the Kennel from Hell match will forever be remembered, but not for the right reasons. And there you have it, wrestling fans. We hope you enjoyed our rundown of the 10 unique wrestling match types that were only used once. If you had a blast exploring these rare gems of wrestling history, don't forget to show your support by liking this video. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss out on more exciting content from German Suplex. Share this video with your fellow wrestling enthusiasts, and let's spark a conversation about these memorable matches that left a lasting mark in the hearts of fans. From all of us here at German Suplex, Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time with more fantastic wrestling content.